Franz Ferdinand looked out of the window of his car. Feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety, he was in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, a province that had been annexed by his empire, Austria-Hungary, 6 years ago. He was here to inspect the army and show his goodwill to the local people, but he knew that not everyone welcomed his presence. He had heard of the rumors of a plot to assassinate him by a group of Serbian nationalists who wanted to free Bosnia from the Austro-Hungarian rule and unite it with Serbia. He glanced at his wife, Sophie, who sat beside him. She smiled at him, sensing his nervousness. She was the love of his life. But their marriage had caused a scandal in the imperial court. She was not of royal blood, and he had to renounce his children's rights to the throne to marry her. He did not care about the throne, he only cared about her. He wished he could spend more time with her and their 3 children, away from the politics and intrigues of Vienna. The car stopped at the town hall, where they were greeted by the mayor and other officials. Franz Ferdinand and Sophie stepped out of the car and walked up the stairs. Amid cheers and applause from the crowd, they entered the building and listened to the speeches. But Franz Ferdinand was impatient. He wanted to get back to the car and continue the tour of the city. He had planned to visit a museum, a hospital, and a school before leaving for the train station. He whispered to Sophie, "Let's get out of here as soon as possible. This is boring," she nodded, understanding his mood. She knew he hated formalities and ceremonies. He preferred to be in the countryside, hunting and fishing, or in his castle, reading and painting. He was a man of many interests and talents. But he was also a man of duty. He had accepted his role as the heir to the empire, and he had tried to reform it for the better. He had advocated for more autonomy and rights for the different nationalities that lived under the Austro-Hungarian rule, and he had sought to improve the relations with Russia without alienating Germany, his empire's ally. He had also made enemies. Some saw him as a threat to the status quo, others as a weak and indecisive leader. He knew he was not popular, but he hoped he could win the respect and trust of his people, especially the Slavs, who formed the majority of the population in Bosnia and Herzegovina. He and Sophie left the town hall and got back into the car. The driver started the engine and drove along the Apple Quay, the main street that ran along the Muljoka River. The crowd was still cheering and waving flags, but Franz Ferdinand noticed some hostile faces among them. He saw a man holding a pistol. Aiming at him, he ducked, and the bullet missed him. Hitting the car instead, he heard a scream from Sophie. He turned to her and saw blood on her dress. She had been hit by the bullet. He held her in his arms and shouted, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." She looked at him and whispered, "I love you." She closed her eyes and went limp. He felt her pulse and realized she was gone. He cried out, "She's dead."
The car sped up, trying to escape the scene. The assassin, a young man named Gavrilo Princip, was arrested by the police.
He was a member of Young Bosnia, a group of revolutionaries supported by a secret society called the Black Hand, which had ties to the Serbian military intelligence. He had been waiting for his chance to kill Franz Ferdinand after a failed attempt by another conspirator earlier that day. He had succeeded, but he did not know the consequences of his act. He had ignited a spark that would soon set the world on fire. His act of violence would trigger a chain of events that would lead to the outbreak of World War I, a global conflict that would claim the lives of millions of people and change the course of history forever.